All right, as promised, we're going to be getting into the DJ mix from Black Sjuan in a little bit. I did a small intro at the top of the show so you know a tiny bit about Black Sjuan, who it is. I've also played you some Black Sjuan music in the past, but I've got the man with me right now. He's been nice enough to sit down for an interview. And I've also been told it's okay to actually reveal his name to you. So I'm sitting here with Jonathan Montero, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for many, many years. So first off, Jonathan, thank you for joining me for the interview.
No problem, man. Love to do it.
All right, awesome. So like I said, about, I don't know, when we're done with the interview here, we'll get into the mix, but I want you guys to get to know this person. So I like to start at the beginning. And by beginning, literally like the beginning. I call it the origin story.
All right.
So tell me about where you were born, your background. Where did Black Sjuan start?
I was born in Milwaukee in the 70s. So my mom was a singer. My dad played horn and, not professionally, but they were really into it, And so music was all over the house. So that's where I started with the music. My dad was into jazz. My grandfather was into blues and jazz. My older people, they were into blues and jazz. My mom was into like opera and a lot of gospel. So music all over the house. And by the time I was 8, I thought I was Michael Jackson. So, James Brown and Rick James, it just progressed from there. So that's basically how I started with the music thing with my family, though.
So literally from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
From the beginning, from mom,
much.
Dad, before mom and dad, everybody. That's amazing.
Man. My whole family
is
real music. I kind of like, I kind of grew up in a crime family. If y'all can understand that, it was a crime family in the hood, though. So music was like this mainstay that was sort of like the pure thing that ran through the crib. So it was always, everybody had radio in their room, and everybody played music, and everybody had their style. And me, I just kind of listened to everybody's music. It was music, So like I said, it was the pure thing running through, and like even though it was sort of like a quote unquote crime family, I was the artist. And so because I was real creative, I was real good at the crime. And so they thought I was going to be a prodigy. This is going to be, nah, I wanted to play with records and, they were like, oh, whatever. Oh, well.
So at one point, because you just said right now, like you wanted to actually play with records. So you wanted to get into the music. Yeah. And as early as 8, like you had the feeling of like, this is something I want to do, right? You're like, you're like, I want to be Michael Jackson, but really that meant I want to make this stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Because we met in college.
Yeah.
And when we met, you were already thinking about being a producer. You already had equipment. You're the first person I worked with that had like equipment. So as early as I've known you, we've known each other for over 20 years.
Yeah.
You were already wanting to make music, and you were, I think, DJing after that, right?
Yeah.
But kind of before that, before we met, how did you get to the point where you had like an Ensoniq and an R8 and all this stuff already? What were you doing before that?
I'll tell you the story. Interesting story. Good story. I like it. I was one of those depressed kids that used to listen to like, depressing music, and the hair was all up, and I had the turtleneck and all that stuff. So I was, it was one night I was really
What are we
depressed.
talking, like Depeche Mode or something?
Yeah, totally Depeche Mode, Prince, love songs, and, all that type of thing. So
emo before it was emo?
Oh, yeah. Even before they had a name for it, I was all depressed and, So, one night I was really sad one night, and I was walking. I was going to visit my grandfather's grave, which is somewhere I'd hung out. Don't ask me why. He was my best friend when I was a little kid. So when he died, it just kind of became a habit to go hang out at his grave when I got real, upset. So on the way to his grave, I was walking by this frat house, black fraternity, on the U of I campus. The Kappa House to be.
So this is in Urbana-Champaign.
Urbana-Champaign, and it was the Kappa House, and it was just music playing, and it was a lot of, and by this time it was really late at night, so everybody's really zooted, so I walked right into the party. Nobody stopped me, nobody asked me for any ID, and when I walked in, there was a bunch of people littering the hallway, and people, and I heard the music getting louder, and it was dance music, which is, I hadn't really put a mind to what kind of dance music it was till I entered the room and it was disco. Like, it's 1985 and someone's playing disco. So I'm like, wow, okay. So I walked all the way around the room and I stood right behind the DJ and I saw this cat control the crowd in a way that I had never seen anything in my life. Like, and it was disco songs that I had never heard, but everybody in that crowd knew all the words. And I didn't know how to feel about that because I'm like, I know music, and I'm like, I don't know any of these songs, but they were deep disco.
Yeah.
They were Chicago. There was like, it was what Chicago DJs had picked as gems of their own. And these guys were from Chicago, which is 2 hours north of Champaign-Urbana. You know, that where I live was the college town, where everybody from Chicago came to college. And these guys were from Chicago. And I, to this day, don't know who this guy was. But he controlled the crowd in a way that I had never seen.
How old were you? Do you remember about how old you were?
I was 15.
Yeah.
I was 15 then. And at that point, that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I knew I was always into music and whatnot, but when I saw that cat control that crowd, and I remember specifically he played Loose Joints. He played Is It All Over My Face?
Of course.
And then you know how it goes. Is it all over my face?
Chicago classic
cut
forever.
Cut the track, and the crowd yells back, hell yeah! Man, I had never seen anything like that in my life. I mean, the closest thing I ever seen anything like that was Soul Train.
Yeah,
but this
not
was
like
live
that,
and in my face, and the cat knew what he was doing. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
He meant for them to do that. That was it. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. But funny enough, for some odd reason, I figured the first time I tried DJing, I thought it was so difficult. I'll never be able to do this. But I knew how to make beats and I knew how to sequence things. So I figured I was gonna be like MK, Mark Kitchen. He started out as a producer and not a DJ. So that's what I told Mozzie. I told everybody, I'm just gonna produce records. I'm blah, blah.
Yeah, when I first met you, that's what you said. I was gonna make music.
I'm just gonna make
you
music.
guys DJ, I'm gonna make music.
Yep.
You can play my tracks.
Yep, that was my total attitude. But like, every weekend we would get together. Miles was in college and I had already gotten out of college, put it that way. And I would bring my equipment over and he had turntables and I had a sampler and a drum machine. And we'd get together every weekend and we'd buy a 20-inch pizza and beer or whatever. And we would get together and we would just try to run ideas and, try everything. And while those guys were trying to sequence and trying to do things and make drum tracks and the MIDI chord has a short in it and nobody knows why, blah, blah. I'd be over there and I'd be looking at those turntables and they'd be like, come here. Come here. And I'd be like, no, I'm scared. I was scared, man. The wheels of steel would scare me, but no, man, you know how it went. Yeah. Every time you guys disappeared into the room, you'd hear those records start up and, Eddie Mills. Mm-hmm. Eddie Mills was the cat that we hung out with and we all met because he was the big time DJ down there. We all hung out with him. And, basically, I just hung around the best DJs I knew and picked up what they were putting down. And I will tell you this, I already had my ideas in my head, had no idea how to put them together. And I learned a lot from Mozzie because he was a few years ahead of me. He knew how to DJ, he knew how to keep his beats tight. I knew how to make ideas and blend them together. I couldn't keep beats together for anything. So
this is interesting because I've never been part of the stories of the people I interview, but I can't help it. Like this one,
Mozzie's all over this story.
To put a little bit of background, I mean, Jonathan and I made, I think, what was both of our first records ever together.
Yeah.
Is a record called Chunky Grooves Volume 1. Yeah. I think it's in Discogs without a photo of the record on there, but you might be able to find it.
If you see the label, and I don't mean to cut you off, if you see the label of Chunky Grooves Volume 1, Mozzie's hand and my hand are both on the label, and we're holding headphones with a microphone going up in. That was supposed to be like a old freaky thing. Like it was supposed to be like a sexual thing. It was also supposed to resemble a mushroom and
psilocybin.
Yeah.
So we also after that did a record label together called Shroom Records.
Yeah,
we put out more mushroom-induced music there.
Also on that label, I don't know if you want to mention, the very first record by a pretty famous person. Colette, DJ Colette, did her first record on our label, Shroom Records.
And Lego did a track on there as well.
Lego also did a track on there, and that was one of his first records that he ever put. It wasn't his first one, but it was one of his first ones. And Mozzie and I wrote the song, wrote Colette's first song that she ever did. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
little history.
Let's leave me out, because there's a lot more interesting stuff that Black Sjuan has done and Jonathan has done that I want to get into. So we know roots now. We know the very beginning of where you started. We know how music has been a part of your life, part of the tapestry of your life all along. We know kind of like what got you inspired and how you got started. We also know then how the wheels started turning. Now, I would love to kind of hear about how the career has kind of bloomed now, kind of the stuff that you've been doing. I want to hear about your label. I want to hear about your productions and that kind of stuff, right? Like what's inspiring you now, your process. What's Black Sjuan? Tell me about Black Sjuan.
Black Sjuan well, I went through some pretty hard times at some point, and I was moving around the country DJing and stuff, and I had a bit of an accident which gave me some brain damage at one point in time. So funny enough, I had enough brain damage where I didn't remember certain things, and so I could not remember how to DJ anymore. So I had to teach myself all over again. So
this is not when you were in Chicago anymore, Champaign. You had moved away, right?
Yeah, when I moved, I was in San Francisco at the time, right before I moved to San Francisco at the time. And so I went to San Francisco, and upon learning to spin again, it was sort of, it was an interesting, I'm gonna see if I can make this short. I'm not gonna drag this out. It's interesting to learn something at a certain age. But when you go through certain experiences and get all these things within you and you're mature, and you take that same art form and you get the privilege to learn it again. You know, it hurt my heart that I couldn't spin anymore, because I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing and I couldn't do it, and it was my fault because I messed up and blah, blah, blah. But something came to me when I was trying to learn again. And it was a different revelation of like how to understand the music, how to put it together, what the word deep in deep house means. So motion didn't fit anymore. First of all, let me tell you, by that time there was like maybe 5 or 6 different.
No one's even heard about motion. You gotta tell them what that is before we.
DJ Motion was my original DJ name, and I did records under Nepenta, Shaboom, Gaia, After Hours, Mozzie's labels, Simple Soul, and what was you had another label? Gourmet Recording. Gourmet.
Yeah, so Jonathan's had records on several labels, like internationally as DJ Motion.
Yeah, and so anyway, that was my original DJ name, and Motion was Mozzie knew me as I was a character. Motion was a character, so coming across the beginning of my career again, all over again, it wasn't the same cat. You know, to learn the whole art all over again and to understand it in a way that meant so much more to me. To not only fight through the difficulty to learn it the first time, but to have enough passion to do it all over again. Motion wasn't big enough. The character, the name, what it meant wasn't enough. So anyway.
Well, I think it makes sense to start over again.
Yeah.
If you're starting over again, you can't go to the same point.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going somewhere else. It's a new
completely
journey.
Different thing. So anyway, the way I came up with Motion was like I had some kind of goofy name before, and I'm a type of person when I DJ, I tend to dance a little bit behind the,
or a lot bit.
Yeah, or a lot of bit. Some back in the days I would mess the blend up. I'd be dancing so much. But anyway, like Motion came about because somebody said, hey, you know what? They should call you DJ Motion because you always in motion when you dancing. Bam, that's how Motion happened, and it just stuck. So, same thing happened again. I was DJing under a bunch of names, man. I was ghostwriting for people. I had Johnny Frigo. I was Q Sancodas, which is like if you say it phonetically, it's the beginning and the ends of songs, the Q's and the codas of songs, Q Sancodas. Anyway, all my names are kind of like that. And so this one guy said, he said, well, what's your name? And this wasn't even when I was DJing. This is when I was doing an art show, because I also paint. So I was doing an art show. And the guy came up behind me. He said, well, Jonathan likes to use anonymous names sometimes. And so I said, yeah, sometimes Jonathan uses anonymous names. And it just stuck right there in my brain all day long. I just kept, and then I spelled it out, and it's spelled Swan, like Juan with an S. So, and I also have to say this, because Mozzie, you'll think this is funny. Back in the days, we used to know this guy named Swan. Do you remember Swan? He's a tall guy, real dark skin.
Yeah.
He used to go with Arwen, remember?
Oh my God, you're bringing back some crazy
Yeah, I know.
memories.
So anyway, he's like way back in the mirror. Anyway, when I met that cat, he's kind of a smooth guy. He's sort of an ominous looking guy when you first meet him. But when he opens his mouth, he was very smooth. And then he would say, my name is Swan. And it sounded so smooth. And I always liked that. Like, oh man, it sounds so smooth. So anyway, I always remember that. Yeah. Now, I hope he doesn't hear this and get offended. But Swan, the original guy, Swan, he was about 6'4", and I don't know if he was he was from Africa, but he was very, very, very dark. I mean, his skin was black, like black. So anyway, Black Swan. So sometimes Jonathan uses anonymous names. I always like the name Swan. And also happen to have a long neck. Also tend to be the kind of person that want to mate for life. Look it up. It's all me. Black swans are a little crazy.
I would not expect anything with fewer layers. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys can understand all that, that's what it is. That's where it came from.
So before we get into the mix, there's two more things I want from you. Hopefully that's okay. First, give the listeners some concrete stuff to go looking for. So it could be your label, it could be releases that you want people to know about, a DJ mix, a party coming up, anything that you think people should go out there and look for. I've already told them about the one song I played, but I told them there's more coming. So maybe you want to talk about the mix, right?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. The mix that I'm doing right now is all my music. I wrote all of it. It's a short mix. It's sort of like a sampler of what's on my label, my digital label, which is called Asylum Effort Records, which is a whole story behind that too.
Oh, trust me, this is not the last interview we're doing. There's more to come. This is just the intro.
Yeah, well, Asylum, there's a whole snap bang for that. Anyway, that's my digital label. I have several tracks out on there. I want to tell you about my music, which all my music is very personal. I just write about my life. I just basically translated sounds from my emotions and experiences in my life and put them into music, and that's pretty much what the whole label is. Do have a guy on the label. His name is Sir No. He is like one of my favorite DJs from South Africa. He's from South Africa, and he also is releasing a EP on my label later this year. Basically, just think of Larry Heard 2018. That's pretty much what he sounds like. So you'll definitely dig his stuff. The South African deep house sound is just basically Larry Heard and all Virgil 4. I mean they try to take it to the original depth of it with the Junos, and so that's what his sound is, and it ought to be pretty good. I also have one other artist coming out on my label later this year. Female producer DJ who does not want to be known. She already has a career, and she's made it clear that she ain't trying to be a DJ. She don't care about the fame and blah. She's all very purist and whatnot. But I'm telling you, she's bad. I mean, good mixes. I mean, when you guys hear her name is Zanea Rourke. Zanea, remember that. Zanea, and she's fine too. Nah, she didn't want me to say that, but she is. So anyway, she got her own regular career, which she would not really like me to talk about, but she's also gonna be on my label. Also, Mozzie's doing a remix of one of my tracks on the label, so
let him hear a little bit of it today. Just a couple loops.
We got a lot of stuff coming out, but basically my label right now, Asylum Effort. Basically, you can go to Google, you can go to Spotify,
It's on Apple Music.
Yeah, it's on Apple Music. All the major Crane. It's it's on Beatport. It's on all the major stores.
Track Source too.
Track Source, yeah. It's on. Basically, just look for Black Sjuan.
And I've told you before the spelling here, which is important, but it's black like you would expect it, and then Sjuan. I think Jonathan said it earlier as well, but I think it's good to call that out.
Exactly, yeah. So, just look that up. You can just Google that name and all the jazz comes up. I also have a YouTube channel, which is like DJ mixes of homemade kaleidoscopes and, artwork and paintings, and it's all my artwork. And I had no friends at the time, so that's why I made them all myself. But it's very entertaining, get your smoke, get your wine, put it on, and zone out. It's fun, so.
Speaking of the smoke and the wine, we're about to get into the music. So, Jonathan might know this or not, because I know he's listened to a couple episodes. But what happens next is I ask you to say the last word. The guest always gets the last word. So you can say whatever you want. And the way this works is as you're speaking now, whatever you say, your mix starts to fade up under your voice or immediately after. So you get the last word, and then we're going to get into the music.
Okay, well, this is interesting. Zanea, who I had to debate over and over again to get her to do projects for me, asked me, what is your artist statement? She's trying to be like, well, give me some proof why I should work with you. And I said, my artist statement is not really a statement, it's a question. And she said, now what might your question be? And I said, well, it's actually not even a question to you, it's a question to me. And she's like, well, what is it? And I was like, are you deeper than your desires? That is the question I ask myself all the time. And every time I write and every time I sit down, I try to do the best that I can outside of ego, outside of trying to be famous or rich or anything like that. So that's my artist statement question. Are you deeper than your desires?